You're now listening to All Hog Sports, covering all Arkansas Razorback sports, such as football, basketball, baseball, and much more. Now, here's your host for today's show, Sam Stimpson.
This Saturday, September 11th at 6 p.m., the Arkansas Razorbacks take on the Texas Longhorns on ESPN in front of a Donald W. Reynolds-Beck Razorback Stadium sold-out crowd, only standing room available as I record this on Tuesday, likely to be the largest crowd in stadium in university history, and man, it's going to be crazy on the Hill this weekend.
Now, for the Arkansas Razorbacks.
The number one most important player in this game is KJ Jefferson. Your quarterback is likely going to be the number one player in a big game no matter what, because he's the one, managing the game and controlling the ball, tempo, and all of that. KJ has to be able to be a game manager in this game. Controlling the tempo, like I said, you've got to be able to put together drives that are going to allow the defense to rest up and then, just really eat out the other defense, get them tired. Texas has a lot of good athletes. They have a lot of good players on both sides of the ball. I'll get into that later. KJ also has to be a more accurate passer, a better thrower. And he's a better thrower when he's able to run because it kind of opens up both of those. He's not your average dual-threat running back. I think his running ability could be considered better than his passing ability very easily. And I say this because I think he's capable of it. You watched the Missouri game, and we sustained long drives and took deep shots. He was more accurate. He was a better thrower on the run as well. And he's our QB. There's no reason that I think Malik Hornsby should be given reps in practice, games, or anything. I mean, we were looking at transfer portal quarterbacks, and Pittman said no after that Missouri game. He's our quarterback. We're riding with him. Now, last weekend, he was 12 out of 21, and that just won't get it done. But it's not all his fault. Got to settle in, get those first game jitters out of the way, and things that go along with the passing game that will help KJ's offensive line play. That includes quicker snaps. Stromberg had a couple floaters that, hurt the offense in tempo there. Better tackle play on the ends, on the edge rushers, and just avoiding penalties like holding, downfield blocking on RPOs, similar nature, and then wide receivers just catching the ball, not dropping them. Separation really goes like that. It's a team effort. All 11 guys have to be on sync and coordinated throughout the game. Other parts in the passing game is the 5-man wide receiver rotation. I expect it to be Treylon Burks. He will practice all week, and I think the rust from the last game where he only had 5 catches and 42 yards had a lot to do with him not practicing that much in the prior 2 to 3 weeks. Guaranteed a better performance. He will be an X factor in this game too. Tyson Morris, he sparked that offense with a contested ball catch downfield. I could see a couple shots getting taken his way off of a similar pass. Devion Warren is a speedy slot receiver. And then Ketron Jackson, impressive with his blocking ability. His route running looks solid too. And then Warren Thompson, the final guy, the walk-on. Not many targets his way. He was the only guy in this rotation who didn't catch any passes. But his route running looked solid. He had a target on a play. And then 2 tight ends I expect to play are Blake Kern and Hudson Henry. The main role of these 2 guys will be to run short routes, attain easy yardage, upfield blocking, and really, an X factor is very well in play for both of these guys if they are on their A game. Now this game is
Versus.
The 15th ranked AP poll Texas Longhorns had a 20-point win over a ranked ULL team. So I just talked about the Arkansas passing game. So with that, here is the Texas preview of their secondary. At strong safety, you got BJ Foster, 80 tackles, 13 tackles for loss, and 8 pass deflections in 14 starts. This is the star of their secondary, along with free safety Jaron Thompson, forcing 2 fumbles against ULL. He's a hard-hitting safety and always seems to poke the ball out. and then he's also paired with Brendan Schooler at free safety. Now at corner, you got guys who don't have double-digit starts. You get Deshaun Jameson, 9 starts, and then Josh Thompson, who had 3 starts. Last weekend, the Longhorns gave up 282 yards in the air, 28 out of 40 on passing, 7.1 yards per pass, and no interceptions. The unit was very solid and really wasn't a main point, but wasn't a downfall. I don't think this is one of the main points of this Texas team, but it's a really solid core, and Arkansas will have to deal with a lot of these corners, especially if Texas packs the box. Now, how does Arkansas win this matchup of the Arkansas passing game versus the Texas secondary? You got to use KJ's rushing ability for when they stack the box. You got to be able to throw on the run. And the main thing is you can't have 3 and outs. Sustained drives is going to be important, and sustained drives also lead into better confidence. KJ will play better when he's more confident and you're playing at a higher level. Manage the game, you're able to take deep shots then, get Burks involved, and then really just smarter reads, better passes, take care of the football. Looking at the Arkansas rushing game, you've got Raheem Sanders, and I want more. 7 carries last week, had 6.3 yards per carry. His quickness and burst off release is just really unmatched by anybody in the SEC besides like Tank Bigsby and a couple other players. I want to see him get double-digit carries in this game. Just use running backs in certain play calls that work better, like Traylon Smith. He's a very solid back. He's probably going to get 15-plus touches, and that will work great for the offense. I love him in RPO packages. He excels in those. And then KJ Jefferson. Expect a lot of QB spies from the Texas defense. KJ has to use his running ability and elusiveness to force deep throws, force slant routes, and march down the field, gain positive yards. Now, previewing that Texas linebacker core, Luke Brockermeyer had 4 tackles and 0.5 sacks. He's the middle linebacker for the Longhorns. Demarion Overshone, he was a Butkus preseason award list, the strength of this Texas linebacker core, a 4-year player and a playmaker as well. And then rounding out the linebacker core is Ovi Ogrefo. He had 7 tackles and 1 sack last week against ULL. This Texas linebacker core all works their own part. Great tacklers, and they'll bring pressure onto the quarterback as well. This defensive line, though, for Texas could create a little bit of an issue. Keandre Coburn is a beast on the line, 340-plus pounds, and then on the other side of Coburn, you got Mario Ogamo. He was moved to tackle during the offseason. Very heavy team up front. For edge rushers, you get Jacoby Jones and Ray Thornton. What Arkansas must do to win in this is just solid offensive line play. Fundamental blocking is necessary to give KJ time to make RPO decisions and not force things or incompletions. Elude the QB spy. I would expect Overshone to run some of that just based off of speed or a defensive back. And then smart RPO decisions as well, especially when Texas is going to stack the box. I expect them to stack the box in third down situations, just given how much better the rushing offense looked last week than this week. So that's why you got to get rid of those mistakes from the passing game. Don't want drops, don't want incompletions, interceptions. Take care of the football and just play really fundamental quarterback play, and it should work out off its own. The strength of the Arkansas defense is the secondary, and play to your strengths. Strong safety Jalen Catlin is a All-American, carried the team last week with 2 interceptions, and just looking at his play film from this week and last season, he's already playing smarter. And he's a leader in this backfield, setting up guys. And then something I would see him do is help the cornerback too in certain situations, Ladarius Bishop. I'll get to him here in a second. At free safety, you got Joe Fouché, Greg Brooks Jr. at nickelback, Both of those guys have been solid starters for the Hogs for over a year. And then Monteric Brown intercepted Willie Green last week off of a comeback route. He has a very important matchup against Jordan Whittington, which I'll get into later. But this is something that is very important because that Texas offense really rolls around about 3, 4, 5 key playmakers. Ladarius Bishop can't be making mistakes that are going to be costly. He had a play where he gave up a long touchdown, a couple other plays he just got lost on, and I think that could be due to his pass interference calls, but again, you can't have those either. We may get Miles Slusher back from this game if he's off injury, and then Simeon Blair to round up the secondary rotation. The Texas passing game is led by quarterback Hudson Card. He was 14 out of 21 last week with 229 yards and 3 touchdowns. What he really succeeds well is being a game manager in a positive way. He sustained multiple drives going 10 out of 15 on third down as the quarterback leading the offense. Casey Thompson was accredited with a couple of those. 1 for 1 on fourth down too. He has a rushing ability, and his legs could be a difference maker. He makes a lot of simple plays to extend drives, 10.7 average yards per pass. And really, what Arkansas has to do against Hudson Card here is stack the box sometimes and force him to throw to the secondary because you've got guys like Catalan, Monteric Brown, Fouché, Brooks, and even Ladarius Bishop when he's playing on his A game. Slusher as well, all those guys I listed beforehand. You want him to throw to the secondary, and that has to be met by a good pass rush. Now the receiving play is Jordan Whittington. He had 7 catches for 113 yards and 1 touchdown. He was a stud. And the thing is, Sarkisian's going to find a way to get him targets and get the ball to him because he's that well. Also, Sarkisian is a fantastic play caller. There's no doubt that he's going to dial up some of the best plays against Barry Odom and challenge that Arkansas secondary. Xavier Worthy as a deep threat, and then Joshua Moore lines out the wide receivers. And really, a huge part in the passing game is Bijan Robinson. He had 4 catches for 73 yards and 1 touchdown. Expect him to be used a lot in the passing game as a backfield threat. His instincts on the football field and size are just incredible. I'll talk about that more in the rushing game here in a sec. Now the offensive line, Sarkisian said it could be a little bit better. They gave up 3 sacks. I wouldn't say their offensive line is bad, but I wouldn't say it's like elite. It's probably around a good to mediocre level. How does Arkansas win this battle? Brown doesn't necessarily have to put the clamps on Whittington. He just has to have good coverage. You don't want him going for 8 catches, 123 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Whittington was also really good on third down, so you want to keep good coverage down the middle for slants and things like that. That goes along with linebacker coverage with Grant Morgan and Hudson Henry, and then Poole in the second half. Force Card to make tough plays in the secondary. Bring pressure on 4 defensive line sets. That pass rush is only going to complement the defense. And then really let your superstars shine on defense with Catalan in the secondary. Now the Texas rushing game is led, like I said, by Bijan Robinson. He's an All-American caliber player. He had 20 carries for 103 yards and 1 touchdown. He's 6 foot 214. He's big, fast, quick, and you don't want to make mistakes when you're tackling him. Arkansas has to be a perfect tackler when they're going against Robinson, or else he's just going to make you cost for it. Now, they also have Keelan Robinson, a Bama transfer in the backfield, and Roscoe Johnson as well. Now, for that Arkansas defensive lineman, Illinois State transfer John Ridgway is likely back this week after he had appendix surgery a couple weeks ago. He's probably the best defensive tackle on this team, been looked at as an NFL caliber player for a while now. His size is very well needed on that defensive line and could lift up a pass rush that struggled in the first half of that Rice game. Complementing him would be Markel Utsi. He got pressured last weekend and was a gap in the middle. He did a pretty good job, but the guys next to him, I wasn't